We are.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to our YouTube channel, Dr. Cami and Karen Go Keto. We're really delighted today to have our first interview speaker, and his name is Jeff Kotterman, and he's an absolutely wonderful gentleman. And I'm going to share with you some of his accolades and what he is right now, so that you'll understand a little bit more before we start our conversation. Jeff is the owner and founder of the TriSystem Center for Metabolic Health, which is located in San Diego. He's been down here since 1996. He, luckily, by grace of God, is 10 minutes away from my house. So I've had the absolute pleasure and delight to get to know him better and to work with him as both my nutrition and supplement and weight exercise helper. He's the director of the National Association of Sports Nutrition and the first National Association of Sports Nutrition licensed master sports nutritionist in San Diego. He specializes in breaking health performance and fitness plateaus through exercise and nutrition. He holds degrees in both health and physical education and several certifications. He holds every certification that the National Association of Sports Nutrition has to offer, including their licensing instructor certificate. So this is the man. This guy licensed other people to do what he does. He is an engaging and accomplished speaker, and we are grateful and blessed to have him here with us today. So thank you so much, Jeff, for joining us on our YouTube channel.
My pleasure. It should be a fun time.
So we're going to just have this be very informal, but we are going to ask you some questions, and we're just going to kind of see where the discussion goes and play that by ear. And I think Karen has the first question for you.
I do. And Jeff, just so you know, feel free at any time to weave in whatever you do on a daily basis, answer the question or take us on a tangent. The questions are just guidelines to get us in conversation. So I'm going to start with something that is near and dear to my heart, because I don't think I have a sedentary lifestyle because I'm up and around and moving around the house a lot, but I don't exercise on a regular basis. And I know that that's lacking. So what can this channel is all about a transition, especially into a ketogenic lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
What do you see as the biggest motivator for people to get off of their butts, off of their sedentary lifestyle and into an active lifestyle?
Well, I think that what the Surgeon General defines as an active lifestyle is somewhat ambiguous. Technology has really changed things in our lives. We've gone from one technological advancement to the next, and with every technological benefit is a consequence. So right now I'm dealing with people that have postural issues because they're like this the majority of the day.
Yeah.
And there's this thing that now that there's clinical diagnosis of texting neck and poor curvature of the spine because of this technological advancement. And then before that, there was the computer. And before that, there was the TV remote. And before that, I mean, we can go all the way back to say the chair was a technological advancement to be able to sit at a table and not have to stand or lie, or not have to get down on the floor and get back up. These are things that have consequence to them. And so depending upon what you believe, at least for millennia, at the minimum, for thousands of years, the human body has been adapting to just lifestyle changes due to technology. And so the ketogenic lifestyle, and specifically a form of training called SMART training, or slow maximum response training, has been a remedy to consequences of these technological advancements. Right? The human body was designed to hunt, gather, to farm, to do a certain amount of manual labor, to produce food, and to sustain life. And we basically put those tasks to someone else. We're so specialized in society right now that we don't have to really work hard for our food. We don't have to worry about preparing food. It's already pre-processed and prepared for us. So we've moved away from eating whole nature-made food, and we've gotten away from having to move throughout the day just to stay alive. So the remedy to those two things are a low-carb, high-fat diet. We can get into that in a little bit, and resistance training. So more than cardiovascular exercise, more than just walking around, more than counting steps, resistance training is the focal point of maintaining metabolism, of keeping insulin sensitivity up, of keeping bone density up, of keeping muscle mass around, and resisting disease. Resistance training is not only going to help prevent heart disease and cancer, which are the leading causes of death in America, but they're also, if you've escaped that, if you're 60 plus years, you're approaching 70, and heart disease or cancer haven't hit you yet, then the most likely thing that's going to influence mortality would be a fall or some kind of trauma. And resistance training, more than cardiovascular training, will offset that. If you're in a fender bender and you get a whiplash, or God forbid a worse accident, or you fall and you break a hip, that's something that greatly influences the life that you have left. And so resistance training will offset that. And the most efficient way to do that is time under tension training. So weight training is necessary now to offset these technological advances. And the most efficient way to weight train is to do time under tension for workouts that last 15 to 20 minutes, and supercompensation occurs every 72 hours. Now, what does that mean? You only have to do a workout that's intense for 15 to 20 minutes, and then the body adapts and reacts to it over 72 hours of adjustment. All exercise is a stimulus. All we're doing is telling the body how to change and adapt. We're instituting some kind of systemic stress. The body reacts to it, and then it compensates to it, and then we build on that. So the analogy I like. Go ahead.
You're talking about specific muscle groups at specific, like you said 15 minutes. So you're going to do specific muscle groups for 15 minutes and let it repair for 3 days.
Correct. We're going to do the whole body, break it up into 9 body areas. The body is very adaptive and very efficient. If you go to pick something up from the floor, your body's going to naturally want to use momentum and multiple muscle groups so as to tax each muscle the least. And what we want to do is tax each muscle the most so that it has a reason to compensate. And so we have to break the body up into isolated groups so as to cause fatigue right here, or to cause fatigue right here. If I do something that incorporates both, then they're going to be less fatigued and more likely stay the same.
Okay, good.
So can you just describe for us, Jeff, how we do it in the gym, how you take weights and, you'll lift up for 5 seconds. You'll take some dumbbells that are heavy, the heaviest ones you can handle. I'm just trying to explain to them what it actually means, like the weight under resistance.
Okay, so muscles are these unique little cells, fibers. They're like they're like a strain of hair that can shorten under a force. So a muscle on a microscopic level looks like my finger that has a sliding filament in it. And these are proteins that latch onto each other, and they shorten under a force, and they strengthen or atrophy, weaken if they're not used. So this whole use it or lose it principle occurs. So resistance training specifically focuses on taxing that specific part of the muscle. What we want to do is go through the hierarchy of muscle tissue so that your muscles are smart. Your whole muscle doesn't, if I'm going to pick up this highlighter, I'm not using my whole bicep to pick up this. Just very few muscle filaments are energy, just enough to make this move, right? If I want a systemic effect of this whole bicep, I've got to lift a weight that actually moves through every little muscle fiber that makes up the whole muscle to get a reaction, to get a systemic change. And so we have to do a weight. Let's say I'm going to work this muscle. So the way to work the bicep is to bend the elbow or flex the elbow. So I'm going to put a weight in my hand that is hard to move, but I can move it, but gets difficult as I continually move it for about 30 to 60 seconds. So the whole movement is over in 60 seconds. But at that time, at that 60-second mark, evidence that I'm using my whole muscle is that there's a little bit of vibration, a little bit of what they call fasciculation. And what that is each little muscle fiber, each strand is failing and other ones are trying to take over. And as ones replace ones that are failing, you get this little shakiness. And so that's good evidence that you're going to fatigue or failure. So the downside, you have to get to an uncomfortable point where you're trying to move something and it's not moving. I'm commanding my arm to flex and it's getting very difficult, or it's not doing it at all, or even better, I'm trying to get this to move closer to my shoulder and it's actually falling down because I'm fatigued. That's called eccentric failure. It'd be great to get to eccentric failure. Concentric failure, I'm trying to close my elbow joint to a certain point and I can't, and it becomes isometric. In other words, it's not moving, but I'm trying to make it move. It's hard. And then eccentric failure would be I'm trying to close it, but I can't even control it while it's going down. That's total failure of the muscle. It takes 72 hours to repair. 72 hours later, this muscle will be better for it.
So then what? Oh, I'm sorry, Karen. I was just going to say what I really enjoy about the classes is that, they're only 15 minutes long. You work all your major muscle groups in this fashion where you're isolating them and doing them as hard as you can for a minute, and you fasciculate your muscles. And then you get to leave the gym. And so then it's 15 minutes and I'm already sweating and feeling exhausted in all the parts of my body.
Yeah.
So,
because you gave it the exact stimulus. Now, traditional weight training, there's some really good, funny little YouTube memes and things like that. There, guys go in there and they're done. And that basically they just did an exercise in momentum. And I don't know, that was just kind of just short of a seizure that I did there. Our movement is very slow. You can't go too slow in smart training. You can only go too fast. And there's two phases of the movement, right? We're talking about sliding filaments. So when the muscle shortens, that's the concentric phase. So in the shortening phase, the ideal tempo is about 5 seconds. So I'm talking about a movement where you're going this slow. You might have heard super slow training. And then letting the weight down actually influences or stimulates the muscle to change more than pulling the weight up. So if you can lower the weight to the point where you're going about 8 seconds, I mean, you're barely moving. You're really maximizing the message you're sending the muscle to change. Now, I can remember in high school weight training class, right, I have a phys ed degree, right? High school weight training class, these high school kids would do bicep curls, since we're talking about this muscle, and they'd struggle and get it up like this, and then be like, oh, let it fall. And then struggle. And so they're working so hard to do their workout, but they're negating the stimulus of change because they're not even paying attention to the letdown or the negative or the eccentric contraction. And that is the main messenger that causes your body to change in this kind of training. So you just got to be efficient. Everybody in the world can find 15 minutes twice a week. There's no excuse. There's no time.
And it's very effective too. Karen, I interrupted you earlier. You had something to say? A question?
No, but I did disappear for a minute. Can you hear me?
Yep,
yeah, we can hear you
Okay.
and you're back. You're up and running.
Okay.
So
It's like musical screens here. It's good. You're actively moving. There we go.
All right. Go ahead.
I did want to say, Jeff, in how you were describing this, the the words that you're using, although applied to physical training of a body, is very useful in actually thinking of diet as well, I think.
Yes. Yes.
Um, Go ahead.
So if we go back in time, there was less and less processing of food because there was less and less ability to process the food. And so our bodies were able to handle nutrients and calories as they became available at a controllable rate. I'm going to date myself. Okay. I might be a little bit older than I look. I don't know, but I'm going to go back to an old I Love Lucy where she was working in a candy factory and there was a conveyor belt and she was supposed to wrap candies and it's a whole comedy skit where the candies come faster and faster and faster and pretty soon they're overloaded. Right now, you walk into a fast food restaurant. And no matter who you are, your body is immediately inundated with the highly ultra processed foods at quantities that the body has to adapt to just to handle, with a consequence. Most fast food that we eat today, most food out of a box, is going to cause insulin resistance, which if we go to these medical conferences, we go to the Society for Metabolic Practitioners or metabolic health, it's consensus now that fasting insulin is a measurement of mortality. It's a health screening that should be right up there with blood pressure and scale weight and just basic labs. We should be doing fasting insulin. And so we're eating in such a way in modern society that we're negatively affecting our ability to process and handle nutrients properly. So a consequence of that is a ketogenic diet. We have to swing the pendulum the other day. We have to give our body a rest from ultra processed carbohydrate, from things that are going to cause insulin resistance, from things that are going to exacerbate atherosclerosis and institute or increase the likelihood that there's a mutation in some tissue somewhere. We have to kind of give our body a rest. And so there are a lot of like religious people out there and hardcore fundamentalists that say the human body was not intended to eat no carbohydrate. And I 100% agree with that. But the 2024, we're on the cusp of that. The 2024 human body needs a break from not just the carbohydrate that we ate, but the generational effect of our genes and DNA that our parents and grandparents ate. We've been eating this ultra processed food for over 100 years now. And the propensity to process that and handle it and become insulin resistant, become have high cholesterol or have heart disease. It's genetically passed down because of decades of eating. Our bodies are adapted to it.
Which
So
do
yes,
you think?
there's a crossover there. We have to.
do
The
you
segue
think?
is we have to get back to the original way that the human body was supposed to function in the absence of technological advancement.
Do you think this this genetic passing down to the next generation, is that what is causing these? Do you think causing the early onset of periods,
Yes.
early diabetes? I mean, you have
Yes.
4-year-olds, 5-year-olds that are diabetic, and besides the
Yes.
fact that they eat bad food. I mean, I've seen on the bus 4-year-olds with a can of Coke in their hand,
Sure.
or apple juice. What difference does it make whether it's Coke or apple juice?
Sure.
But they want it, and maybe they want it as soon as they get out of the womb, right?
Sure. I would agree with you 100%. Most people, their perception is, look at that fat kid. What are their parents doing? Why? Their lifestyle must be totally unhealthy for that 4-year-old to already have the beginnings of breast tissue development, have tremendous growth. Right, we're bigger at younger ages right now. Type 1 and type 2 diabetes are more prevalent. Type 2 definitely, but even type 1 are more prevalent. And I don't think it's just because of lifestyle.
Mhm.
I think that generational lifestyles have genetic consequence that are passed down. And so it kind of sets up the person is born into this situation with already a propensity for insulin resistance and heart disease and even higher levels of cancer. And then they're exposed to an environment that turns that gene on, and it just
Right.
expresses itself.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
we're fighting not only lifestyle change, but we're fighting genetic propensity. I'm going to just touch a little bit on a hot topic that some people talk about, epigenetics, right? So
Mhm.
what is that? What are epigenetics? Well, in the 90s, we mapped the human genome, and we're like, well, we can figure out who's going to have this disease, who's going to have, we know the color of your eyes and everything down to what your height's going to be. Great. That's not the end of it, though, right? Two identical twins are born with a genetic abnormality, and one expresses the disease and the other is disease free with the same genetics. How do you explain that? Well, there are environmental conditions that can suppress or express genes. And
Mhm.
that's where this comes into play, right? So this is not all about just looking good and just trying to be super pretty and healthy. This is about setting up yourself for a long life, and then for your offspring to have the greatest potential in their life. So what you eat and how you exercise now is not only affecting you, it's affecting our descendants. It's bigger than just me. So I just want to eat healthy so that my son is less likely to have cancer, and I want to be an example not only for him, but what I ate before he was born probably influences where he is now, and
Yeah.
that
Mhm. Mhm.
it's good when it's bigger than just you. Your why becomes bigger, and so that's why, Karen, you need to do resistance training twice a week, and along with a ketogenic lifestyle, so that we can offset this worldwide dilemma.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, Karen, he does do it online too.
I
Because when
know.
we're in class, there's other people online that do it with him.
Yeah.
All
So
right.
we're training in Thailand, in Prague, we're training in Cancun. So when the pandemic hit, I didn't know what to do, right? But we closed down everything. We started training even local people Zoom. But then those local people started telling their friends and telling their friends, and now there was no geographical limitation because everybody was on Zoom.
Yeah.
And so my marketing just naturally, my referrals spread worldwide. And then the pandemic ended, and people that couldn't come in just stayed on Zoom, which was great. So we got good at virtual training. And now I have people in Alpine that don't want to drive 35 minutes for a 30-minute appointment. So they're training on Zoom and waiting for the East County location to open, which will be next month.
Yay.
Yeah. 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 It's all
Um,
exciting stuff.
it's
We're not selling
exciting.
cigarettes here. We're actually helping people. And we're doing, I think, when I put my head down on the pillow at the end of the night, I feel good about what we're doing because I see people change for the better.
Yeah,
It's a good thing.
in multiple ways too.
Yeah.
I wanted to see, Jeff, if you could touch on what is needed to get somebody into ketosis. I'm going through this very interesting process where I'm trying to, like, actually, as we speak, my body feels like it's getting ready to move into ketosis.
It's
And
good.
I know what we're doing together to accomplish that. But what, like, are there guidelines? Do you eat 20 or less or carbs a day, or do you exercise? I know I'm doing the SMART program. I think that's really helping. Do you have like any set things you can say? I know it's a general question and everybody's different, but you deal with mostly women who are in the age group that Karen and I are in,
Hmm.
50 to 80 years old, 40 to
Hmm.
80. What does it take to get us into ketosis?
So let's talk about this whole technological theme, and then it'll apply specifically to you. So in the past, if we just go a couple hundred years in the past, food wasn't as prevalent. some people had to necessarily fast because the food was just not available. Processed food was not as available. So that the ketogenic pathway was naturally occurring in people who had to just either intermittently fast, stop for a while, or that just didn't have as many processed grains available. So now, 2024, we've got people who have an atrophied metabolic pathway. And very, very interesting, right? Very, 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 very interesting. So I can back this up with some exercise physiology textbooks because I experienced it myself. I actually got into a debate with some of the bigwigs over at Low Carb USA, Doug Reynolds, over a subject of glyconeogenesis and things like that. But we'll talk about that later. So what do we do to get Dr. Cami into ketosis as soon as possible? Well, one, we have to limit her carbohydrate intake to 20 grams or less because the body will immediately use that for fuel and shift away from this pathway of turning fat into energy without oxygen. So what is ketosis? It's basically an anaerobic metabolism of fat, right? The traditional way to burn fat, you need a lot of oxygen and you need carbohydrate for aerobic lipolysis. Ketogenesis, or the formation of a ketone, is the product of burning fat in the absence of oxygen. You can do it. Burn is a bad term. You are metabolizing, burn infers oxygen. We are metabolizing fat to turn it into ATP, which is the energy currency of the cell, without oxygen. When you put a little bit of carbohydrate in, or if you have an excess stored in your liver, that can interrupt ketosis. So we have to, over time, limit the amount of consumed carbohydrate and slowly drain supercompensated liver, even hyper glycogen stored muscles. If you're insulin resistant, then you might run hyperglycemic, your blood sugar might run a little bit high. All these things have to be lowered because they can counteract ketosis. Now, the main thing to get you into using fat primarily for fuel is to primarily eat fat and have no other option. So fat consumption, carbohydrate has to be limited to about 20 grams a day. That's whole carbohydrate. It's almost no carbohydrate. And in the beginning, this is absolutely necessary. And then fat has to be at least 70%. 70% of your diet has to be fat so that you build the metabolic muscle to break down fat for fuel, because it's easier to even turn protein into carbohydrate than it is to anaerobically burn fat for some. That's a hard thing. Now, a lot of biochemists will say protein is the hardest thing to use for fuel. So protein is pretty much a free food. And one thing I've learned in the 35 years I've done this is that everybody is an N of one. So there are some people that can convert protein for fuel for real easy. There are some people, I have got people that I'm jealous of. They can walk around eating 100 carbohydrates a day and still be in ketosis. They just have that established metabolic pathway. So for Dr. Cami, 3 things: TriSystem, 20 grams of carbs or less. 70% of the rest of what you eat should be fat. And hopefully it's not, damaged fat or trans fat. Hopefully you got some avocado in there and you've got some olive oil in there and you've got some fish and some salmon. And the third thing I would do, if you're stubborn about it, is to actually ingest exogenous ketones into your bloodstream so your body recognizes them as a metabolite and learns to process them, and hopefully through processing the end product, ketones, it learns to produce more, because ketones on their own actually are a great energy substrate. So people that are in deep ketosis or are trying to get into ketosis but don't have energy, they have maybe a keto flu or they're in the transition, we'll give them ketones right before they work out so that they have energy. It actually gives energy because you can metabolize ketones like you metabolize sugar, and the brain can use them. So some of my other clients have noticed, and research has actually verified, that ketones improve focus. So the thing I don't want people to do is take ketones and say, okay, I'm in ketosis. All right, that's like trying to start a fire with just lighter fluid on sidewalk. You need to put the lighter fluid on a log to start the fire. You can't just eat a starter and not have the finisher in there. So originally I was against exogenous ketones. That get yourself into ketosis and make your own ketones rather than pay money to put them in your body. But for those that are stubborn, those three things should get you into ketosis.
Thank you.
You got it.
We'll see in 3 days on Friday.
Amen. Amen. I have a client right now. It's taken her 8 weeks on a ketogenic diet, and she wasn't above 0.5 blood ketones on a finger prick. And then yesterday she was 0.9, and today she is 1.7. I'm going to verify it with my own. That took her 8 weeks, and she's finally in a solid ketogenic level, which would be somewhere between 1.0 and 3.0 ketones per millimole.
My mom, who is wheelchair bound and a diabetic, we try to keep her we try to keep her on a ketogenic diet. She has a lot of issues that are going on with her, but she was 1.2 the other day.
Great.
So, yeah.
That's the sweet spot.
Yeah. And we got the health code, Dr. Ben Bickman's product that's exogenous ketone. It's a flavored like shake that you can make, but I just put it in her food that she eats, and I think it really has made a difference, and it's really one of the best tasting ones. Do they have unflavored exogenous ketones?
No, because it's BHB.
It's bad, right? It's
it
the
tastes
esters and salt.
horrible.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Ketone salts are just, it's
Well,
not
they have
just
a pill. You can take a pill.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can. But even through the digestive process, it's one of those things where if you take just pure BHB, even in a capsule, and swallow it, and once you digest it, and all of a sudden you have a little belch, and all of a sudden you have a horrible taste in your mouth.
Usually for my mom, we've been just giving her, her fish oil. We give her olive oil. We mix melted butter into almost everything. Isn't that basically an exogenous ketone? Or not quite? It's just more fat.
They're precursors to exogenous ketones. They're close to it. Like MCT oil is probably the closest you can get to a ketone without it being a ketone.
Yeah.
And beta hydroxybutyrate, or a form of a keto salt, is the actual,
that's the actual
waste product of anaerobic lipolysis. Yeah. Yeah. So I have them in with a raspberry flavoring to kind of cover the taste in capsule form, and that's what I take every day. I take a little bit of ketones in the morning before my workout.
Do you ever miss a day? If you miss a day, do you go, oh my gosh, I can't believe I forgot my ketones, or no? Do you not ever miss a day?
I definitely do miss a day from time to time. If I think about it, I think I'll notice it. But I mean, in their absence, I can still function. There's an ergogenic effect to most supplements, but there's also I forgot the word. You guys know what it is. Perceived benefit, placebo effect, right? So I have a little bit of that. And, if I don't take it, I'm like, oh, okay, my workout's not going to be the best. The reason I didn't get that lift, extra 5 pounds, extra 5 seconds, was because I didn't take my little pill. And that's probably just up here. But I know it's good for me, and I know it has an actual benefit, so I try to get it in most times. In my business, I taught this at the last low carb meeting in San Diego, where I actually met you guys, or saw you guys, right? You guys were there.
That's where you met us.
In my little breakout meeting, to be successful as a practitioner, you have to focus on getting back on the horse and not even how many times you fell off, or even dwell. It's good to know why you fell off to try to prevent it again, but the focus is getting right back on that program. So I fall off just like everybody else, you know. I can remember when I first got married 26 years ago. I'm being a good husband. I'm pushing the cart at the grocery store, and my wife reached out and grabbed the Oreo double stuff, put it in there. I reached out. No, we can't have that in the house. She's like, yeah, we can have that in the house. Sometimes I want one. And my wife is like super lean and super fit. I just pray that I pray that my kids have her genetics, because they're better than mine. And she just turned to me and said, listen, this is the perfect dessert for me. I'll have one a month and they won't go bad as long as you seal them in a little thing. They're mostly processed stuff, and they hit the spot. But for me, I start to, that's in the house, and I want an Oreo. And when I put that in my mouth, I feel it in my toes. It's a transcendental experience. And then when it stops, I'm like, I need another hit. Is that drug? So I know it's in there. So they're still in there to this day. Not the same ones from 26 years ago.
They're still good if they were.
Right. They're still probably good, right? But to be completely honest, I'd say I have an Oreo or 2 or 5, probably about 3 times a year, because I'll walk into that pantry and they'll be in the same place. And I don't know, something will hit me. I'm tired. I'm angry. I'm paying a contractor for the 3rd time for doing the same thing, or something. I'm going to just soothe myself with that Oreo. And I'm smart enough at this point in my life not to finish the whole packet. 5 is out of hand for me. One is okay, 2 or 3 times a year. It's probably not going to kill me. Better to not have it at all. But they're in front of my face. And my point is, the next day, I say, okay, I got my Oreo fix. I'm good. I'm not an addict, even though I kind of feel like I am. I convinced myself I'm not an addict. An addict would go back and do it again and again and again and again. And so I just concentrate on getting back on that horse and not worrying about, I fell off yesterday. Yesterday's gone. A binge is a binge. It's done.
And don't live in the past. Look toward the future.
Amen, sister. Yeah. Right? You can't drive the car looking in the rearview mirror.
Yeah.
Right. All right. Well, I think, is there any burning desires? Anybody bringing up anything? Karen, you have a question you want to ask? We've learned so much.
I have one other question. Yes, Jeff, thank you so much. And in this transition period, Jeff, what is your plan for the Christmas holiday? Do you celebrate that? And if you do, what is your plan? Because that's one that's really built around food.
Yes, it is totally built around food. We're going to have 30 plus people at our home. It's the most I've ever had at my home ever. But we have adult children. They live with us, and they now have significant others, boyfriend or girlfriend, that they're serious with. And we're pretty family oriented. And so we just invited everybody. So their families are coming along with them. And so Tina's going to prepare for everybody. We're going to have probably a taco cart. And it's easy to eat keto on a taco cart. You just don't have beans, rice, or tortilla. You just take the guacamole, have a little carne asada, pollo asada, throw a little pico de gallo on there, and you're good to go. Eat it with a spoon. We're going to have a friend of ours actually make protein lasagna, keto lasagna, and instead of the pasta, it's going to be like thinly sliced zucchini with all kinds of meat and cheese. And I'm going to have some of that. I would prefer that over the taco cart. I'll probably have a little appetizer of the taco cart. And then Tina is going to make her homemade Italian meatballs, keto style, no breadcrumbs, phenomenal. And those 3 things, I'm satisfied. I got my protein in. And I will not lie. I'll probably have either a Corona Premier, 2 net carbs, 1 beer, or I'll have a little bit of whiskey, like a shot of whiskey to sip on, and it'll be Christmas time. I'll be happy. The rest of the time, I'll be making sure 30 some odd other people are happy, and my wife will be in her glory. She is absolutely the happiest when people are eating her food. She's accomplished. And
Is she Italian?
yes, she's got a little bit of Italian in her. She's got a little bit of everything in her, but she knows how to cook Italian. And don't tell anybody, but Christmas Day, right? Like nobody else is going to know, right?
This is only going in, across
it's only
the
going to
world.
go out to the
Internet, yeah.
internet, right? It's just going to be the 4 of us, maybe the 4 of my son, my daughter, my wife, and I, and maybe the girlfriend and the boyfriend. Tina got a bone-in prime rib. She promised to cook Christmas Day. I'm already like,
yeah, I am too already.
Yes. So that's going to be for the small group. The larger group, we're going to have, hundreds of meatballs and lasagna, all that kind of stuff. But I am truly blessed with a woman that is very happy to feed me when I come in. I work right now. It's a little off balance. I work from 5 a.m. I get home around 7 or 7:30 at night, and there's a hot meal waiting for me right there with a cold Corona. And she says, "Sit down and eat." And I feel like I've accomplished something at that point in my life, It's really, really, really good to have somebody that's sympathetic to the ketogenic diet, right? She doesn't put an Oreo on my plate. That's good.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being with us today. We so appreciated everything we learned, and I would love to have another conversation with you at some point in the future, maybe touching base in detail on certain things that we brought up today. But you certainly gave us a good overview on diet and muscles and how to be ketogenic, which is, what we're working on.
Yep.
I had a great time. And I heard that I'm the first one, huh?
You are.
Number
You're
one.
Well, I'm honored. Hopefully I didn't talk too much. I got pretty excited, but I'm excited about what we do. I'm excited about meeting other people that are like-minded like you, and let's help the world together.
Yeah.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen. I'm so grateful. We're so blessed to have had you today.
Thank you so much, Jeff. Merry
Thank
Christmas,
you, Jeff.
everybody.
Happy
Merry Christmas.
holidays. Wonderful New Year.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Take care.